right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tea with Doug G. If you don't know me, my name is Doug Gooden, and y'all, this week I have a very special guest. I have Reverend Ben Robertson of the Chapel of the Cross here in Madison, Mississippi. Ben, why don't you take a minute, tell the people who you are, what you do, your thoughts on life, and the floor is yours.
Oh my! Well, you may regret giving that to me. It's fun to be on the show with you, Doug, and we've only known each other for about a few weeks now, and I so enjoyed getting to know you and fun. I'm looking forward to talking tonight. My name is Ben Robertson. I am the rector or senior pastor of the Chapel of the Cross, which is an Episcopal church in Madison, Mississippi. I've been here for about 8 years now. I am married to Ellen, who is a associate professor of anatomy and neuroscience at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. I have two kids, Anna and Henry. Anna is in 8th grade. Henry is in 5th grade. I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky, born there, raised there, graduated high school there, but have lived various places throughout the Southeast during my career, and but have been here in Mississippi for, as I said, since they called me as the rector here at the chapel. And that was about 8 years ago.
Good deal. Well, yes, Ben. It's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last 5 or 6 weeks. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into some questions.
All right.
And we have a tradition here. Ben Tankersley, very good friend of mine. He usually starts us off with our first question, and Ben has got a great question for us. We just wrapped up Thanksgiving. We're entering the Christmas season of Advent, and Ben has got a great question for us. Ben, from one Ben to another, what is your go-to decoration on gingerbread house?
I've always had a soft spot for the spice drops.
Yeah.
And not the fruity ones, but the ones that actually have that sort of kind of spice in them. That's a favorite. I don't have a great tradition. I didn't grow up building gingerbread houses. A couple of years ago, actually, a member here at the chapel made a chapel gingerbread house, which was amazing. But I guess if I had to choose, those spice gumdrops would be my favorite.
That's a good choice. That's a good choice. I've slowly become a gumdrop person.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something about them. It just hits the spot for me. But
I have very odd tastes when it comes to candy.
that's fair.
The traditional ones usually are not sort of my go-tos.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, well, Ben Tankersley in the comments said that he thinks that's a solid choice in those spice drops.
Well, from
So
one Ben to another, thank you.
yes, absolutely. Well, Ben, great question to get started off with, and moving on to kind of a different question, but I love this question from a member of the parish here, a member of Chapel of the Cross, Amelia Barker. She wants to know if you had to spend one day in a Freaky Friday body switch scenario with someone. It can be anyone. Who would it be?
I thought about that's a great question, and I would think it'd be interesting to do someone famous, sort of, or someone from history. But I think if I really had that opportunity to have that sort of Freaky Friday moment, I am not, and I know this will come as a great surprise to you, I am not a great athlete. And as you can tell from my chiseled physique, and so I would love to be like an Olympic athlete for a day. And I'm not sure what discipline, what sport, maybe not even Olympics. I mean, maybe if I could have been Michael Jordan for a day, in 1996 when the Bulls were making that tremendous run that year, or one of the a swimmer or a runner or someone who can achieve such amazing feats from their athleticism, I think that would be just that would be fascinating for me, just because that's something that I have never experienced on my own.
Likewise, likewise. Never been on that side of
Right.
anything. But yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. And this wasn't a question that got submitted, but you brought up Michael Jordan, and so I just have to ask. Do you agree with me that Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time, or do you lean more LeBron or another third option?
You know, I think I am not the greatest assessor of basketball or any athletic talent, and so I don't know. I think he was the greatest competitor ever to play
Mm,
basketball. I mean, his passion, his drive to win was something that we never saw
mm,
before that, and I don't think we've seen since. I mean, LeBron might be a better player. There are lots of folks coming up who might surpass him one day. But I think Michael Jordan was something that I don't know, at least in basketball, that we had seen before or will see again.
yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. Also on this question of the Freaky Friday switch, my mom, Miss Heidi Gooden, she brought up her answer, which is she would love to trade places with her children for a day.
Mm.
If you had to pick one of your children, Henry or Anna, or I mean, you can do both. Wh- who would you like to trade places with in that scenario?
You know, that is tough. That's sort of like, choosing which child you love best. And so, I'm going to get grief from either of them, no matter what I choose. I think for right now, um, Henry is such a good natured, not that Anna isn't, but I mean, Henry is such a happy, just, nothing bothers him.
Yeah,
Life is good. He's just a happy dude, unless he's not,
yeah,
and then he's definitely not a happy dude. But
yeah.
99% of the time, he's just such a happy-go-lucky kid. So I think just to go through a day with that sort of level of just bliss, I
It's
think would be
that point of life where nothing really serious can get you down.
no.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I think that's an awesome question. I'm going to keep that one in my back pocket. That was a great question, Miss Amy. All right, now Ben, you and I are fellow cinephiles.
Mm.
We love film. We love film, and I know that both of us have watched several films just this year. And I am curious, what do you think is the best movie that you've seen this year?
That's really hard. Well,
It's been a year. It's
I
been a
haven't
year.
seen as many movies. I like to see movies in the theater.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't, I get distracted. I'll start washing the dishes or playing with the dog or that sort of thing, when I'm watching a movie at home. And I love that the theater going experience. And so because of the pandemic, I haven't been to the theater as much as I would like to have been. I'm gonna cheat a little bit and make it a tie.
Okay.
Um, and some of this might be recency bias because I literally saw this movie today.
Oh, okay.
But I would say it's a tie between Dune and Belfast.
Really? Okay. I've heard great things about Belfast. I've
It
heard
is a
great things.
beautiful movie. I mean, it is intimate, both in its storytelling, but also in the cinematography.
Hmm.
I mean, it's the most close-ups I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, like every shot is just really close.
Yeah.
The actors, top to bottoms, are just spectacular, and many of them are actors that I've loved for years and years and years. It's a great story, great music. I'm a huge Van Morrison fan, and so that's Van Morrison wrote the score, but also there's a bunch of Van Morrison songs throughout the movie, and so it's really good.
Okay. All right. It's on my list. I heard someone put out an early prediction of Best Picture nominees, and the first one they listed was Belfast.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll definitely have to check that one out. It's on my list. I'm gonna see it. All right. Well, Ben. Also, I know just in talking about Belfast, and I've heard you speak to the amazingness and the awe that Dune created this year. And I know you're someone who really loves to analyze movies. And I know that when you were interviewing me for the job here at the Chapel, you brought up my podcast that I co-host with Ben Tankersley and Tristan Webb and Elijah Walls, Setting the Skene. And so I'm curious, Ben. One film snob to another. If you were ever to start critiquing films, be it in a written form or a podcast form, what do you think would be your spin on film criticism? Because like for us, when we started, our whole take was we're going to talk about movies that are so bad they're good, or we're going to talk about really just bad movies. But what do you think your spin would be on that?
I don't. I have never studied, or am I familiar with, like, proper film criticism? Like what you read, in the paper or in magazines or that sort of thing, where folks, seriously and sincerely critique films for their various aspects. And so I don't have that vocabulary in terms of, how to properly analyze a film. Um, and to be honest, I love movies. I love going to the movies. And so I think, one spin I would take is just, relax and enjoy the movie. I mean, there are definitely movies that I don't like,
Yeah.
and that I was like, this was bad. This was a waste of my time, and there are plenty of those. But, recently, most movies I'm going to say, hey, that was pretty good. I enjoyed myself. That was worth my time. That was worth the, $10 or whatever, to see it. And so, you know, like I saw the Eternals recently,
Yeah.
which was, I mean, it was okay. It was fun, but it wasn't great. But I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, spend a lot of mental energy on, this plot hole or this problem or this actor or that sort of thing. I was like, hey, it was fun. People were flying around. There were spaceships and superheroes, and yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be that's the only really spin I could put on it, because I really don't have, I'm not from some school or that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
if that makes
That's
any sense.
Well, no, that makes perfect sense. I think even for some people like us at Saying the Skein, uh, I think we've just watched so many movies at this point where we have an idea of what we're of generally what we're talking about. But I think we sort of fall into that whole idea of at the base of this: do we like the movie? Do we not like it? What do we not? What do we like? What do we not like? So yeah, no, I think that's a very fair assessment.
Yeah, there's a movie podcast. It's mainly sort of comic book and sci-fi movies, but there's a movie podcast that I listen to besides yours, of course,
No, yes, thank
called
you.
The Weekly Planet. I don't know if you know that one.
I've heard of
It,
it. I've heard
it's
of it.
two Australian guys, and when they critique a movie, it's either the worst movie ever or the best movie ever. There's no 5 stars. There's no subtlety to it. It's
Yeah,
just best movie ever, worst movie ever. And I think that's sort of kind of where I fall.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, yeah. Well, awesome, awesome. No, I think that's a great way to put it. I think that's a great take to have on films and film criticism. All right, so kind of shifting focus, into your professional life. You are the rector of Chapel of the Cross, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but the big sort of movement that's been happening, just across churches, is everybody's gotten really big on Enneagram numbers, really big on Enneagram and personality types. And I think take it or leave it. But Sam Lear, who works here at the chapel with us, she wants to know, Ben. She wants to know, what is your Enneagram number?
I am not an Enneagram scholar. I have many colleagues and friends who have studied the Enneagram, who know it really well. They know what their, wings are. They know, sort of where they go.
They know who they
At
best associate
their
with by
best and that
Enneagram.
sort of thing. And so, I'm really not very, being a self-centered so and so, I know who I am, but I don't know what
Yeah,
any of the other numbers mean.
yeah,
But I am, and when I took the test, it was split between, and I forget what the other number was and what I am. And I really wanted to be the other number. I mean, that sounded like a really cool person. But I am most definitely a 6,
okay,
which means, I am loyal. I will defend my friends and the institutions that I associate with to my dying breath. But inside, I am a hot mess of anxiety and, low self-esteem and low self-confidence. And so, I might be able to project, some amount of, I don't know, confidence. But, inside, I'm still sort of that, frightened kid. And
yeah,
so, and that's, there's a lot more to being a 6 than that. And there are other members of the parish who are also 6s, and we sort of commiserate with each other sometimes. Or like that was a very 6 moment, wasn't it? That sort of thing. But and I think personality. I mean, I think the Enneagram is much more nuanced than your sort of averaged, BuzzFeed personality test. But I think it's an interesting tool. It's certainly a great tool when working with a group, sort of figuring out who, what folks' personality traits are so that you can work the best together.
yeah,
It's also sometimes helpful, at least as a starting off point, in marriage or in relationships, that,
yeah.
figuring out how the other person's, sort of approaching things sometimes helps unlock some things that might be frustrating in terms of your relationship or, the work of marriage. Not to get too deep into the professional weeds.
No, no, trust me, I completely understand where you're coming from. I completely agree with that. We have a bunch of people who are posting their enneagrams in the comments. Hannah Day, hi Hannah. She's a fellow 6 with you.
You are in
Uh,
my prayers.
yes. Tristan Webb is a 3-wing 2. Good deal. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, Tristan. My mom thinks she might be a 6, but she doesn't know. I personally think my mom is closer to me, which is a 2, which is the helper, the person who doesn't know how to say no. I think that might be a better fit for my mom, but yeah. So like you were saying, the Enneagram, the personality test, they're good determining factors on how to start a relationship with someone, how to start that system of assisting them and helping them and being there for them. And I'm curious. I've spoken with many people who are in ministry and who work in ministry, and I'm curious. What would you say has been or is your primary focus in ministry? You've been here for 6 years, but I know you've been in ministry for going on 20 years, correct?
Almost, yeah. You know, the answer I think should be sort of Jesus.
Yeah.
Um, you
Hey,
know,
God,
uh,
Jesus, Bible. Those are
right,
those are
right,
the
exactly.
answers.
I think I think it's about connection.
Hmm.
And let me sort of expound on that. I mean, I think from the one sense, and I preached about this some on Sunday, and so it's something that I talk about a lot. But one of the biggest revelations for me when I really started studying theology seriously was the implication of the incarnation, that God so loved us that he became one of us to know us fully, that it wasn't, sort of God up there somewhere, but God that, came down to walk with us and know us. And so, because of that, the connection that we have with God is so very powerful and so very dynamic and so very real. And so, I think it is one of the callings of the church to not only foster for people that kind of real and active connection with God, but then also that sort of real connection with each other as a community of faith, and then also that connection with the world, so that we can go out, so that we are nurturing saints, we're nurturing ministers, we're nurturing folks, disciples who go out into the world, and want to make connections with those who are lost, with those who are in need, with those who are lonely, and help them find connection.
Yeah.
And so I think being in and serving and helping lead communities of faith where those kind of connections and fostering those sort of connections are important, that's where I found myself drawn to. Because I think, people don't realize. I mean, there was a little kid at church on Sunday, and she said, "I don't," and I love Ed Dacus. If you're ever watching this, I love the music that we do at the chapel. It is wonderful, classic,
Mm.
excellent Anglican music. But this little kid came up to me and said, "I don't like the music we're doing in church." And I said, "Really? Well, tell me, what music would you like to hear in church?" And she said, "I only like Jesus Loves Me." And so I said, "Okay, so you want to sing Jesus Loves Me every song, every Sunday?" Yes. I want to sing every time we sing, I want to sing Jesus Loves Me every time. Which would get a little repetitive.
Yeah, that's fair.
But she has a point.
Yeah.
We don't realize how profound and how deep and how real that love is. And I think if folks really knew that and owned that, it could change their lives. It could change the world. So
Yeah. No, I think that's a wonderful, beautiful sentiment and take on ministry. Well said. Well said. Um, so you've been here at the chapel for 6 years. You've been in ministry for almost 20 years.
8 years.
Sorry, 8 years. 8 years. Sorry. There's a lot of numbers that are going on in my head. Um, uh, well, one of the members of the parish, good friend to both of us, Eric Eaton.
Uh-oh.
Eric wanted to know. I know. I saw Eric's name pop up on the questions that came in. I was concerned about what we were going to get, but Eric wanted to know if you could go back to your first year as an associate rector and change something. What do you think that would be?
I would get over it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
There were so many times in my first years as an associate and in my first job as a rector where I got so worked up about the smallest little thing.
Hmm.
And it's not, I mean, there are definitely things that you need to get worked up about, um, and, 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 and when those times are. But there were so many times where I got exorcised about silly little stuff. And, if I could go back and just tell myself to just not, to just relax not worry about that, not confront that person about that. I think I would have been happier,
Hmm.
and I think things would have been smoother.
Yeah.
And so, there's certainly, I've made plenty of mistakes, and there are lots of people who would like to tell you all about them. But I think, for me, right now at this stage of my career, I think if I could just go back and just, relax,
Yeah.
and which is easy for me to say as a six. But I think that would have served me, and it would have served the parishes I served well.
Well, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think especially especially just I've just entered into working into ministry as a calling, as a career, and like even the smallest things, I get caught up with, and I think it's important to have that self awareness to just say, all right, just take a step back, take a breath. It's gonna be okay. It's not the end of the world. Have that mindset of Henry where nothing too bad is gonna happen.
That's right.
Nothing too bad is gonna happen. Uh,
And if something bad does happen, there are always Legos.
yeah, there's always Legos. There's always Legos. Amen. Truer words have never been said. All right. So Ben, what some people may not realize is in between your graduating from, I believe, your undergrad and starting seminary, starting studying theology, going into ministry. You worked as a legislative assistant on in the House of Representatives, and both of us have that communal experience working on the Hill, working in politics. And I think the question that I'm dying to know the answer to is, what do you think is the cause of this pipeline between people who are involved in politics coming over to work in ministry, or vice versa? Because you see it the other way too. What do you think is that pipeline?
Um, that is a question that is very precarious. And well, first, not to be too nitpicky, but legislative assistant is a specific job title, which I never had. I never achieved that rank. I was
Okay.
a legislative correspondent.
Oh, okay. My
Um,
apologies.
and no apology necessary. I just, don't want to claim something that I never achieved. Um, I can only tell sort of my story, which is really about sort of my call to ordained ministry, and sort of politics was sort of a detour.
Hmm.
Um, I felt a call to ordained ministry. That started, and I didn't articulate it as such, but thinking back on it, before I graduated high school, and that sort of percolated on the proverbial back burner,
Hmm.
for my college career, and I wasn't sure if that was really what I was supposed to do. Um, and so I thought, well, I was also interested in the law, and I was interested not really in politics. I mean, I find politics fascinating. I follow politics. I read a lot of political news, but and this sounds very high and mighty, and I don't mean it to sound that way, but I was really more interested in like civics and sort of, how in that Schoolhouse Rock, how a bill becomes a
Yeah.
law, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And
No,
so,
I completely understand where you're
and
coming
and
from.
DC, at least when I was graduating from college, was a great place for a kid who who wanted to work hard, but still didn't really know what they wanted to be when they grew up. It was a great place to go. There were lots of other kids who were working hard but didn't know what they wanted to be when they grew up. And so and so I thought, okay, I'm going to go do this other thing. And if I still think that I have a call to ordained ministry after a few years, then I'll really think about it and pray about it. And so I went and and worked on Capitol Hill, worked in the House of Representatives for two excellent members of the House, and I heard horror stories about bosses and about colleagues, and I really never experienced any of those. I was really lucky and privileged to work with two very dedicated members of the House and wonderful staffs. And but what, and I think this was something that I thought a lot about when I started to think about ordained ministry, or not, or to take seriously call to ordained ministry. What I really enjoyed the most was what we called constituent services,
Mm-hmm.
where a constituent who, a veteran who's having trouble accessing their benefits, or someone who needed information, a kid who wanted to go to a service academy, those kind of things, being able to be an advocate for them, help them navigate, sort of the red tape and complexities of the federal government, and help them, achieve, or help them find some relief for whatever their issue was. I mean, that's where I felt the most satisfaction. Um, I mean, I still am sort of in awe of, the our system of government, and how it was set up, and how the founders designed it, and that sort of thing. And I still get a chill when I see pictures of the Capitol building or the monuments lit up at night. I mean, that's sort of something that's always going to be, as sort of a history nerd,
Yeah.
and a civics nerd, is something that's always going to make my heart go pitter pat. But it was not. Not quickly realized, but I after a good amount of reflection, realized that was not something that I wanted to do as a career,
Yeah.
and I did not possess the skills or the drive to make politics. That was not my gift.
Yeah.
And so, I started talking to clergy people and saying, I've been thinking about this since I was in high school. What do you think? And thus began, and that was the rest of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely understand that. I got into my fascination with politics very similar. I was fascinated with the civics element. How do we get laws enacted? How does that whole process works? And I was very, very intrigued by the people aspect of it. And after a year and a half working on campaigns, I said, I feel called to something else, and here we are. Here we are in Madison, Mississippi.
There you go.
Well, Ben, we're coming to the end of our time here, and I have just two questions for you. One of them you already know what the last question is, but I just feel like this is such a good question. I have to ask it. We're in the Christmas season. We're in the season of Advent, and I am just downright curious because I know that you listened to the song in preparation for the episode. Ben Tankersley wants to know, what are your thoughts on the song Christmas Shoes? For those of you who don't know, it's a song by a band called New Song. And if you are from my home church in Americus, Georgia, you've heard me sing it every year for the last, I believe, 14 years. So
I am very old-fashioned when it comes to my Advent and Christmas music.
mhm.
If it is not sung by the King's College Choir, I'm, it's not in heavy rotation.
Yeah.
And so, sort of that classic Anglican hymnody is my jam. The craziest Christmas album that I enjoy is John Denver and the Muppets Christmas album.
Which is a great album.
It is, and I've had to grow into it. It is my beloved wife's favorite, and and it has grown on me. As my kids would say when I put something in front of them for dinner that they don't like, Christmas Shoes is not my favorite.
Yeah.
It is a sweet story, but it is not, my first choice. So I will leave it at that.
It's a lot. Like for people who have not, if you have not heard this song and you have no idea what we're talking about, go give it a listen, because I promise you, you've never heard a song quite like it. It will take you on a whole roller coaster of emotion and everything, just everything. My mom so eloquently put it. It's it's one of the most important songs in her life. I would imagine that's because I've sung it every year for the last 8 or 9 years. And okay, I do have to tell you this. Hannah Day pointed this out in the comments. There is a movie based on this song, Ben.
Oh, yes.
Oh, and
I'm
it's
sure.
something. It's something. It's got Rob Lowe in it.
Is it a Hallmark Christmas movie?
I don't think Hallmark premiered it, but it basically is, and it's something. Oh, it is something.
Well, I'm sure our friend Amy, who asked that question about Freaky Friday, she is a connoisseur of the Hallmark Christmas movie. And I'm sure she could give you a full review.
Definitely. So Miss Amy, if you've seen Christmas Shoes, give us your thoughts. We'll talk about it this Sunday. All right. Well, Ben, we've gone through a whole journey of questions, a whole journey of topics, but I told you this before we even started. Whenever I get this question, I have to ask it last. And it comes from, again, a mutual friend of ours, Davis Fry. Davis wants to know, what is the meaning of life?
I have two answers.
Okay.
I cannot be asked this question and not answer from down deep in my geeky heart and say that the answer is 42.
There it is.
And if you read Hitchhiker's Guide, you know what we're talking about. In seriousness, I think, and this is nothing original. This is a very unoriginal answer, but I think it's so important. It's the great commandment. Love your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. I think if we lived our life to those twin ideals, as Jesus told us, that we would have a pretty good life.
I think that's a very fair statement. I think that's very accurate. But yeah, well, Ben, that's all the questions I have for us tonight. I have had a great time. Did you have a good time?
Yes.
Wonderful. I hope it was everything that you hoped it would be.
And more.
Well, wonderful. Now I've got to get you on Saying the Skeen at some point.
Yes. That would truly be a blast.
We will.
I don't know. I don't think I'm cool enough or intelligent enough as you and your co-hosts, but if you're studying the right movie, I might be able to add something to the conversation.
Okay, we can definitely work something out. Ben, I know you're watching. We'll figure something out. We'll have a meeting of the Bens.
Oh my!
On Saying the Skeen. But yeah, well, this has been an excellent episode. It's been a fun time. But yeah, for all of you who are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to my mother for always being the most active person in the chat. We have new episodes of Tea with Doug G every Monday night and new episodes of Saying the Skeen every Wednesday. And I have no clue what episode we have this week. Yes, I do. It's Highlander. We're talking about Highlander this week, and It gets weird. It's something.
So does
But
Highlander.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, that does it for us this episode of Tea with Doug G. Thank you again to Reverend Ben Robertson. For those of you who are in the Madison, Mississippi area, this Sunday, December 5th, at 5 o'clock, at the Chapel of the Cross here in Madison, Mississippi, the choir will be performing Vivaldi's Gloria. And this weekend, Thursday through Saturday, there will be Christmas in the Country. It's a beautiful light display, spectacular, that we have set up. And I will have Christmas colored hair for it because I lost a bet. And it's sure to be a fun, fun time. But that'll do it for us this week. For all us here at Tea with Doug G, I'm Doug Gooden. He is Reverend Ben Robertson. And this, my friends, has been the tea. Y'all have a fantastic week.